Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Inshallah, I will present title The Consequences of Improper Sequence, Tartib in Tawarruq Financing Contracts. Okay, my name is Muhammad Aiman Hakim bin Zaharuddin, and the co-authors for this article is Dr. Muhammad Najib bin Abdullah from UCIP. Inshallah. So, in Islam, contract is very important to ensure the protection of wealth and for facilitating the transfer of ownership and circulating the flow of wealth throughout the society. It acts as a transactional foundation as well as means for transferring ownership from one party to another. However, there is a sequence of execution for each sale and purchase contract which need to adhere based on Sharia principles. Sequencing is a type of rule organized in an orderly and structured manner. This method emphasizes arranging things in order by prioritizing something important first according to the order until the things that are less important and placed at the end of the order of importance. Therefore, contracts play a crucial role in Islam to facilitate the exchange of ownership and to smooth the circulation of wealth in society. It serves as a basis of transaction and a mechanism for transfer of ownership from one party to another. Hence, this research aims to analyze the application of sequence in Tawarruq financing contract from Sharia point of view. So we're going to look at the literature review. In the study by Dr. Muhd explored the factors that contribute to Sharia non-compliance in Islamic banks in Malaysia, with a particular emphasis on Tawarruq-based financing. The study discovered that the most important determinants of Sharia non-compliance event in Tawarruq-based financing and our governance structure, people, and process, with a reasonably high percentage of agreement among raters, which is 88%. The detailed findings indicate that a lack of understanding and knowledge, insufficient control mechanisms and reporting, ineffective functional structure, incompatibility of a system for the execution of Islamic products, improper document execution and sequencing, and insufficient internal policies and governing rules are the primary determinants of Sharia non-compliance events in Tawarruq-based financing. This leads to criticism, especially among Sharia scholars, toward the Tawarruq contract. The study by Mahboubi and Muslim presented survey data on the usage of Tawarruq financing in Islamic banks in Malaysia and the most common types of Sharia non-compliance incidents that may arise when the Tawarruq concept is used in financing products. According to the survey, the most common Sharia non-compliance incident that occurs in Tawarruq contract is inappropriate contract execution sequence. Contemporary scholars hold divergent views on Tawarruq transactions currently conducted in Islamic banking organizations. According to Izwan, transactions must be continued with systematic terms and conditions, as well as practices and methods that satisfy the buy and sales contract validity criterion. This is because in modern financial practice, everything must be explicit and systematic in order to protect the interests of the contracts parties. Now we will gonna look at the definition. First one is Tartib. According to Ibn Manzur, in the most Arabic language dictionaries mention the original word of Tartib refers as rotaba yartabu rutuban, which means consistency. And then the second one is sequence in modern context. According to Oxford Press, there are two definitions of sequence. First, a sequence is a set of events, actions, numbers, etc., which have a particular order which lead to a particular result. Second, a sequence is the order of events, actions, etc. happen in or should happen in. And then the last one is Tawarruq. Linguistically, the term Tawarruq is derived from the Arabic words al-wariku or al-waraqa, which refer to newly coined silver. However, according to SACB&M, in Tawarruq policy document, Tawarruq consists of two sale and purchase contracts. The first involves the sale of an asset by a seller to a purchaser on a deferred basis, Subsequently, the purchaser of the first sale will sell the same asset to a third party on cash and spot basis. And now we are looking at the sequence in Tawarruq financing contract execution in Tawarruq policy document by Bank Negara Malaysia. So we look at the number one, the Islamic financial institution purchases the asset with a selling price of, for an example, 100,000 from asset supplier 1. And then the IFI pays cash to asset supplier 1. Subsequently, the IFI sells the asset to the customer at an agreed selling price, which is 120,000, consists of the profit, 20,000. And then number 4, the customer makes deferred payment through monthly installments for a period of 5 years. And then number 5, subsequently, the customer appoints the IFI as its agent to sell the asset to asset supplier 2 on spot at selling price of 100,000. And then the last one, the customer obtains a cash of 100,000 required for the financing. In conclusion, the unique manner of execution for Tawarruq financing contracts, which entails a sequence of transactions, should be obliged. The chain of transactions involves both cash and commodities, each of which requires its own sequence to be followed. And then there are a few fundamental requirements in application of sequence in Tawarruq financing contract. The vast majority of Muslim jurists categorize contracts as valid, sahih, and void as in ghair sahih. According to Wahbah Zuhaili, a valid contract is a contract that meets all of the contract's fundamental elements, including the contractual parties, the subject matter, the offer and acceptance, and all underlying conditions. On the other hand, void contract is a contract that violates the contract's fundamentals, elements, and its conditions. Therefore, the researcher has found the significance of sequence, which related to the fundamental of contract in Sharia perspective as follows. There are 4, which is contracting parties, offer and acceptance, appointment of an agent, and then the disbursement. And now we are going to look at the contracting parties. Essentially, the Tawarruq process consists of a series of transactions without contracting parties participating in the sequence of contract execution. The contract is regarded to be executed prior to the bank acquiring possession of the commodity. Hence, it will breach the Sharia Advisory Council of Bank Negara Malaysia Sharia Standard in Tawarruq Policy Document 2018 as follows. Okay, there are 4 clauses there. Therefore, there is a potential Sharia non-compliance in the invalidity of the contract if the contract is executed without the contracting parties as defined and mentioned in this slide. And then we are going to look at the offer and acceptance. Operationally, the succession of transactions should follow the proper sequence. Otherwise, Sharia concerns regarding the ownership and possession of the product will arise and will result as a void contract and breach the Tawarruq Policy Document 2018 as in the slides. Okay, therefore, any failure to abide by the rule may lead to the risk of contract invalidity and unentitled expected profit. The fundamental concept of sale and buy is the sale of possessed product. The majority of Sharia scholars believe that selling a commodity that the seller does not possess is prohibited, as supported by the hadith from Hakim ibn Hizam, in which he said, O Messenger of Allah, a man came to me to buy something that I don't have. Shall I purchase the goods from the market for him? Then Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, don't sell what you do not own. Now we look at the appointment of an agent. Okay, after the customer accepts the bank's offer, the schedule of agent appointments is signed and submitted to the credit admin. As a result, the process is deemed capable of mitigating the problem of organized elements in Tawarruq, where the agency should not be appointed prior to commodity possession. Operationally, any lapse could result in Sharia non-compliance, as the agent appointment is not supposed to be assigned if the customer has not yet possessed the commodity. Therefore, the employment of an agent should not be a contractual element in the master agreement. According to Tawarruq policy document, there are some clauses that need to adhere when the customer appointing an agent, as in the slide. Okay, there are a few clauses from Tawarruq PD 2018, inshallah. So we proceed to the disbursement. Right? The bank pays the customer the financing amount, cash proceeds, once the commodity is sold as required by Sharia. However, if the disbursements occur without basis prior to the transaction, it is termed invalid and fictitious. The Tawarruq PD stated that upon dissolution of the sale and purchase contract in the Tawarruq, where the asset has not been sold to a third party, the asset shall be returned to the respective seller and the price paid shall be returned to the respective purchaser. The sale and purchase contract in the Tawarruq is completed upon fulfillment of the obligations of the contracting parties, which include the following as stated in clause 23 in Tawarruq PD as follows. Okay, there are 4 criteria from the clause in the clause 23 in Tawarruq PD. Okay, now the last one about consequences of contract nullification due to improper sequence. According to a book, Al-Mawsu'ah Al-Fiqhiyah Al-Kuwaitiyah, the majority of Sharia jurists share an opinion that void or null contract is not recognized by Sharia. Therefore, in an invalid sale contract, the buyer forfeits all rights to the purchased asset, while the seller forfeits the money received. If the contractual parties desire to continue with the contract, it must be properly re-executed from the beginning. This is because the majority of jurists do not recognize a mechanism for ratification in defective contracts. In this regards, Al-Mawadi said a contract that has been deemed void does not become valid simply by removing its cause. However, if the transaction of the improper sequence occurs until the customer possesses the facility, the income will be forfeited and should be purified. The policy document of Tawarruq in 2018 states that payment of any amount of the deferred selling price should not be made to the seller before entering into the sale purchase contract. Therefore, the facility has to be returned back to the bank or to be set off from the selling price of the commodity. Alternatively, the advance disbursement of facility may be treated as trust or loan to the customer before the conclusion of Tawarruq arrangement. This is based on BNM policy document of Tawarruq as follows. Okay, there are 2 here, as we can see in the slide. Where a sale and purchase contract in the Tawarruq is executed by the agent on a date later than the date on which the fund is received from the principal, the following requirements shall be observed. Again, there's A and B there. The fund must be held based on amanah by the agent, and B, both the agent and principal must ensure that funds received from the principal shall not be treated as caught as a loan to the agent prior to the purchase of the underlying asset. So in conclusion, each financing contract that contains 2 sale contracts must follow the prescribed sequence of contract execution, especially in the Tawarruq contract. There are several fundamental requirements for using the sequence in Tawarruq contracts, which include the contracting parties, the offer and acceptance, and the distribution. A sequence is not only an arrangement, procedure, or flow of certain matter as defined in Collins' dictionary. The most current and appropriate definition for sequence comes from Oxford University, and it refers to a particular order which leads to a particular result. In the majority of Islamic financing contracts that include a sequence, there will be a consequences if there is an improper sequence occurs. As a result, a specific definition of a sequence must be developed for future application in Sharia Muamalat. On the other hand, there are consequences of contract nullification due to the improper sequence in Tawarruq contract, especially in the view of advanced disbursement. It must be made following the completion of the entire Tawarruq sequences. This is important in order for the parties to understand the Sharia compliance status of the financing facility and to differentiate between Sharia and conventional products. That is all from me. Thank you.